Welcome to Whispers and Confessions. There might be a twist waiting, so please make sure to watch until the end. Don't forget to subscribe and like. Let's begin right away.
Our interactions grew increasingly passionate, as if long-suppressed emotions were finally breaking free. As I tenderly caressed Sarah's breasts, she pulled me closer, her body heat permeating my skin. I am Michael, 44 years old, and my wife Emily is 42. We don't have any children. The other couple is Mr. Robert, 52 years old, and his wife Sarah, 45 years old. They have adult children. About myself, I was quite popular before getting married. I always had a girlfriend and never had any difficulties with women. In middle and high school, I was often chased by younger female students. I don't remember studying or exercising particularly hard, but somehow I managed to get into a good high school and earn the trust of teachers in extracurricular activities. I think I was in quite a fortunate environment. So I was treated like a playboy, and girls who didn't know me well would avoid me. Even among the guys, I was seen as a real playboy. But in reality, I'm a very serious person. I've never cheated on Emily in the 14 years we've been married. Maybe I was overconfident, but I never confessed to women myself. And even if there were women who really liked me, I didn't engage with them. I know my personality is not great. Emily was also very popular during her school days. It might sound like I'm bragging about my wife, but Emily is truly beautiful and has a great style. She's so slim that you might wonder if she's too thin, but her upper body is quite impressive. I've loved Emily consistently. Because Emily was like that, she had many men confessing to her before she married me. Emily appears cold on the outside, but she's a warm and serious woman on the inside. So she always responded properly to the men who confessed to her. I fell for Emily's inner self as well. Right after we got married, when we went out for meals or shopping together, unknown men would often approach Emily when I wasn't looking. Every time, Emily would explain, "This is my husband." And sometimes it took time to explain to men who lacked understanding. Such Emily truly loves only me. We cherish our married life together and try to have couple time at least twice a week. Every time we have couple time, we spend quite a long time enjoying various positions, or I take a passive role according to Emily's requests. We're not trying not to have children, but we haven't had any yet. I don't want to point fingers at who's to blame at this point, but recently, my thoughts have changed. I seem to be unsatisfied with our routine married life with Emily. By chance, I overheard a close male senior and a female colleague talking at a company party. They both seemed to have children and an active nightlife, but they were saying it had become boring recently. The conversation unfolded as follows. One gentleman remarked, "Recently, my wife and I have been discussing the possibility of having a second child. We've been putting in considerable effort during our intimate moments, but it hasn't been fruitful. Moreover, I must admit, I'm beginning to feel a bit fatigued by the routine." The female colleague empathized, saying, "I can relate to that. While my husband and I aren't actively trying to conceive, I've noticed that our intimate life has become somewhat monotonous lately. It's rather embarrassing to admit, but..." The male senior continued, "I believe this is a genuine concern. We're still in the prime of our lives, far from retirement age. If we're going to engage in intimate activities, shouldn't we strive to make them enjoyable? That's why I've been giving serious thought to how I can reinvigorate my relationship with my wife and make our time together more exciting and fulfilling." The female colleague concurred, "Absolutely. I've been contemplating this issue as well. Interestingly, someone recently suggested an intriguing solution to me." At this point, the female colleague presented her smartphone to the senior, engaging in a hushed discussion. Initially, I was only half listening, offering occasional nods of agreement. However, my curiosity soon got the better of me, and I found myself drawn into their conversation, eager to learn more. To my astonishment, the content displayed on the female colleague's smartphone screen introduced a concept I had never before considered. An idea so foreign to me that it momentarily left me feeling disoriented. The sensation was akin to having the foundations of my worldview suddenly shaken. The topic in question was a swinger party, presented in the format of an online bulletin board. That brief glimpse at my colleague's smartphone screen felt like stepping through a portal into an entirely new realm of possibilities. The female colleague elaborated. I was introduced to this concept by some friends of my mother. Apparently, it's not something one can simply join as a new member without proper introduction. While I'm intrigued by the idea, I must admit I'm also feeling a mix of trepidation and embarrassment. I'm not entirely sure how to proceed. Upon hearing this, I found myself saying, "That's fascinating. I'm quite interested as well. If you're amenable to the idea, perhaps we could participate together." The female colleague's response was surprisingly positive, albeit tinged with hesitation. "Well, it might be a bit awkward given that we're colleagues, but I must confess, I'm very curious to try it too." I learned that my female colleague's name was Sarah. The male senior also chimed in, saying, "I'm intrigued by the concept as well, though I'm doubtful my wife would ever agree to it. Nevertheless, I'm considering broaching the subject with her at some point." As the conversation progressed, I found myself making the decision to participate in this event with my colleague Sarah. However, I quickly realized that I had gotten ahead of myself. The real challenge lay in how to approach this subject with Emily, my wife. I believe Emily finds satisfaction in our married life, and I suspect she might be inherently open to new experiences. However, since the beginning of our marriage, she has been devoted solely to me, as I have been to her. Would Emily be willing to entertain the idea of such an unconventional arrangement with another man? If I were to participate in this swinging lifestyle, it would likely mean engaging in intimate activities with another woman in Emily's presence. As these thoughts swirled in my mind, I began formulating a strategy to broach this delicate subject with Emily. I recognized that the first crucial step was to gauge Emily's thoughts on this matter. Without understanding her perspective, I couldn't proceed further. I decided to casually bring up the topic during our next intimate moment together. That weekend evening, I approached our time together with extra attentiveness and care. Emily noticed the difference, remarking, "Darling, something feels different tonight." I attempted to deflect, mumbling, "Oh, it's nothing out of the ordinary." Emily concluded our intimate moment with a contented expression, changing into her pajamas beside me. As she bid me good night and turned off the lights, I inquired, "That was wonderful. How was it for you?" Emily responded with a hint of shyness, "Why are you asking such things? It's rather embarrassing." Pressing on, I ventured, "This is purely hypothetical, but—" Emily's curiosity was piqued. "What are you suddenly talking about?" I cautiously continued, "How would you feel if someone other than me were your partner?" Emily's surprise was evident. "Why such strange questions? Is something different today? Michael, you're not having an affair, are you?" I hastily reassured her, "No, absolutely not. I love you deeply." Emily persisted, "Then what exactly are you getting at?" Gathering my courage, I explained, "I heard about something at a company gathering. Have you ever heard of wife swapping?" After a moment's reflection, Emily replied, "I'm aware of it. I've heard such gatherings exist, but I never thought it would be relevant to us." She continued, her tone a mix of curiosity and apprehension. "Are you suggesting I would engage in such activities with a man other than you? And you would be comfortable with me being intimate with another woman?" Our conversation ebbed and flowed, and I realized that while Emily was aware of the concept, she had no inclination to participate. The following day, I shared Emily's reaction with Sarah at work. It appeared Sarah had faced similar challenges in persuading her husband. She divulged her strategy, leaving a book about wife swapping where her husband could discover it, allowing him to gain insight into the potential pleasures of such arrangements. Inspired by Sarah's approach, I borrowed the book and strategically placed it where Emily would notice. A week later, I planned to revisit the topic during our intimate time together. I casually asked Emily, "Did you happen to see that book?" She responded simply, "Yes, I did." Probing further, I inquired, "What were your thoughts?" After a moment's contemplation, Emily replied, "Well, I understood the content. It opened my eyes to a world I hadn't considered before." Her response seemed encouragingly open-minded. As we continued our intimate moment, I ventured, "Emily, what do you think about trying it?" Suddenly, Emily's physical response shifted, as if my use of her name in this context made her feel like she was with someone else. Emily's voice held a mix of curiosity and hesitation. "You're being quite daring." Are you seriously considering wife swapping? I answered honestly, yes, if you're comfortable with it. Emily probed further. Would you truly be okay seeing another man intimately touching me? Wouldn't that bother you? I responded with conviction. I could never dislike it. I believe it would make me love you even more. After a moment of silence, Emily said thoughtfully, I'll give it some consideration. Her response felt promising. Finally, Emily agreed to the idea, stipulating, just once, okay? When I shared this development with Sarah, her face lit up with excitement. Then it's settled. My husband has agreed too. I'll submit our application right away. Since it's our first time, I'd prefer if we could go together. I'm feeling a bit nervous and shy, so I'd appreciate your company. I readily agreed. Of course. Emily and I would feel more at ease if we're with you and your husband. With that, Sarah promptly applied for the wife-swapping party. Sarah proceeded to apply for the wife-swapping party. Despite our extensive research through various online sources and literature, we discovered that a rigorous screening process was in place. This meant that even with an introduction, immediate participation was not guaranteed. The application required us to submit documentation proving our marital status, full-body photographs, and even video content. While some might find this level of scrutiny excessive, we found that it actually lent credibility to the organization. Emily and I, being novices in this arena, were initially taken aback by the thoroughness of the process. However, with Sarah's guidance and support, we managed to successfully navigate the application. To our excitement, we received notification that the event was scheduled for the following weekend. With a mix of anticipation and nervousness, we made our way to the designated location in the company of Sarah and her husband. Sarah's husband, Robert, was introduced to us. Despite being 7 years Sarah's senior, his youthful appearance meant there wasn't a significant visual age gap between us. We found him to be an amiable and jovial individual, which helped ease some of our apprehension. Given that this was our inaugural experience, we made the decision to adopt an observational role for this first encounter. The venue was a lavish penthouse suite, where we found ourselves in the company of 4 other couples, all ranging from their late 30s to 50s. The atmosphere was vibrant and convivial, with laughter and witty banter filling the air. Emily, initially hesitant, gradually began to relax. For my part, I found the experience both refreshing and eye-opening. The realization that this subculture truly existed was both surprising and intriguing. We observed that all 4 couples were engaged with partners other than their spouses. They sat in close proximity, indulging in intimate moments and seemingly reveling in the act of showcasing their partners. Even Emily, while verbally expressing her embarrassment at the closeness, exhibited physical signs of excitement. Her face flushed and her palms became clammy. It was evident that she, too, was becoming caught up in the charged atmosphere. My own reaction was one of intense focus and curiosity. As we concluded our observational visit to the wife-swapping party, Sarah exclaimed, "That was absolutely incredible. I had no idea it would be so intense." Emily concurred, adding, "Yes, it was so passionate that I felt a bit overwhelmed." In the days that followed, we resumed our regular routines. However, during a subsequent conversation with Sarah at work, she broached the subject again. "Hey," she said, "Robert has suggested we try wife swapping this weekend. He's proposing we return to the party, but this time as active participants." I countered with an alternative suggestion. "What if we tried wife swapping just among ourselves?" I explained. Robert mentioned that he found the crowd a bit overwhelming last time. He thinks we could have a more enjoyable experience if it were just the 4 of us. Agreeing with this sentiment, as I too had found the party somewhat crowded, we decided to discuss this proposition with Emily. That evening, during our intimate time together, I broached the subject with Emily. It's worth noting that since our observational experience at the wife-swapping party, the frequency and quality of our own intimate moments had noticeably improved. We had been able to incorporate new ideas and techniques that we had observed, enriching our own relationship. Emily had been anticipating this conversation, her curiosity piqued by our previous experience. I carefully posed the question, "Emily, I've been talking with Sarah. How would you feel about trying wife swapping with Sarah and her husband?" Emily's response was a mix of surprise and intrigue. "Oh," she asked, "you mean we're not returning to the previous venue?" I proposed that since Sarah and Robert also expressed concerns about the crowded nature of the previous venue, we could try swapping just among ourselves. Emily exhaled deeply before agreeing, saying, "Okay, I think I'd prefer that too." There was a noticeable allure about Emily that day, and we both found ourselves enjoying our intimate time together with a newfound intensity. Without delay, I informed Sarah of Emily's agreement. Sarah promptly coordinated with Robert, and we set the date for our first swap the following weekend. Prior to checking into the hotel, the four of us dined at a renowned Italian restaurant in the area. Both Sarah and Robert exuded warmth and friendliness, allowing Emily to forge a closer connection with them, as she hadn't had the opportunity to interact with the couple properly before. Subsequently, we made our way to a nearby hotel. Once in the room, we raised our glasses in a toast. As the atmosphere began to heat up, Robert suggested, "Well, shall we disrobe?" and began undressing himself. Following Robert's lead, I too undressed completely. Emily, visibly flushed, attempted to cover herself with her hands, her face a deep shade of red and her palms noticeably damp. Sarah, appearing self-conscious about being seen by me, requested, "Please look away," as she undressed. When I turned to gaze at Sarah, I saw a side of her I'd never witnessed at work. My emotions were conflicted, but the anticipation of being with Sarah soon overwhelmed me, and I struggled to conceal my physical response. We then shared a communal shower. Thoughts raced through my mind about the potential awkwardness of future interactions at work, given this new, intimate relationship with a colleague. Yet, I grappled with various emotions, wondering if I could acclimate to this arrangement, given that it was a mutually agreed upon situation. Post-shower, Robert gently took Emily's hand and they departed. Emily turned towards me, offering a reassuring nod. I clasped hands with Sarah, who seemed different from her usual self, and delicately caressed her upper body. The softness and warmth of Sarah's breasts, more ample than Emily's, were qualities I couldn't have discerned when she was in her work attire. I noticed Sarah occasionally furrowing her brow and releasing soft sighs. Concerned, I asked Sarah, "Are you all right?" She responded, "I'm fine. It's a bit embarrassing, but I'm enjoying it. Shall we use each other's names just for tonight?" I concurred, saying, "Yes, tonight is indeed special." The mere exchange left me exhilarated, almost at a loss. Spotting a mirror nearby, I instinctively guided Sarah towards it. Our reflection exuded a mature allure, further intensifying our mutual excitement. My encounter with Sarah was a novel and thrilling experience. The sense of liberation that came with this sanctioned infidelity sent shivers down my spine. My heart raced as scenarios I had never dared imagine before unfolded into reality. Curiosity about Sarah's body and responses blossomed, and the prospect of exploring unfamiliar territory made me feel electrified. I was filled with anticipation about the new vitality this permitted adventure might bring to our respective marriages and the new dimensions of intimacy it could create. The thrill of breaking a taboo, combined with the reassurance that this was a consensual experience between our couples, intertwined to evoke an even more intense excitement. Sarah and I began to explore each other's bodies with slow, deliberate movements. Sarah's skin felt like silk beneath my fingertips, and her scent was reminiscent of spring blossoms. As I traced kisses along her elegant neckline, Sarah responded with soft moans and gentle caresses on my back. Her touch, though light as a feather, sent electric currents through my body. Our interactions grew increasingly passionate, as if long-suppressed emotions were finally breaking free. As I tenderly caressed Sarah's breasts, she pulled me closer, her body heat permeating my skin. When my lips found her most intimate area, Sarah's body arched gracefully. A quiet moan escaped her lips, the sound tantalizing my ears. I explored her most sensitive parts with gentle, unhurried movements. Sarah's fingers entwined in my hair, drawing me nearer. Her scent and taste further inflamed my passion, and I responded with increased fervor, attuned to her every reaction. Sarah's breathing grew more ragged, her hips moving in a rhythmic dance. I lovingly attended to every part of her, determined to ensure she experienced the utmost pleasure. Our breathing became increasingly labored as we pressed our bodies closer together, moving as one. In that moment, we were entirely absorbed in each other, the world around us fading into obscurity. When Sarah whispered, "Michael," in my ear, her voice quivering with urgency, it further intensified my excitement. I held her even tighter as our bodies moved in perfect synchronization, the room filled with the heat of our passion. Sarah's smile as our eyes met was breathtakingly beautiful, and the spark of desire in her gaze further fueled my ardor. In that moment, everything else ceased to exist as we focused solely on each other, time seeming to stand still. From what I could discern, Emily and Robert appeared to be thoroughly enjoying themselves as well. Initially, I could only hear Robert's heavy breathing, but as time progressed, Emily's breathing also became more audible. Witnessing Emily with Robert evoked a complex array of emotions within me. My heart raced, a mixture of jealousy, excitement, anxiety, and curiosity coursing through me. Hearing Emily's familiar voice in this unfamiliar context stirred peculiar feelings. While a part of me felt jealous seeing her derive pleasure, another part found this new facet of Emily intriguing. The reality of my wife being intimate with another man felt surreal, and I couldn't help but worry about the potential impact on our relationship. However, amidst this emotional tumult, I remained confident that my love for Emily would endure unchanged. Even as I observed Emily in this new light, I committed myself fully to the intimate moment with Sarah. Indeed, our decision to limit the swap to just the four of us proved to be the right choice. As our encounter drew to a close, the four of us came together to toast with beer, marking the end of our first swapping experience. We bid farewell to Robert and Sarah, exchanging warm hugs and promises to meet again soon. The intensity of the evening's activities had left Emily and me thoroughly exhausted. Upon arriving home, we barely managed to change into our nightwear before collapsing into bed, falling into a deep, dreamless sleep almost instantly. The next morning, as the aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled our kitchen, I broached the subject over breakfast. "Emily," I began, my voice a mix of curiosity and apprehension, "how did you find last night's experience?" Emily's cheeks flushed a deep crimson, her eyes darting momentarily to her coffee cup before meeting mine. "Well," she began, her voice soft but steady, "to be completely honest, it was an entirely new experience for me. Quite interesting, I must say." She paused, taking a sip of her coffee before continuing, but I can't deny there was also an element of awkwardness to it all. Sensing her conflicted emotions, I pressed gently, "I understand. It's a lot to process. Do you think you'd be open to arranging another encounter with Sarah and Robert? Or would you prefer if we concluded this experiment here?" Emily fell silent, her brow furrowing slightly as she contemplated her response. The ticking of the kitchen clock seemed to grow louder in the pregnant pause. Finally, she looked up, a glimmer of determination in her eyes. "Are you being facetious?" she asked, a hint of amusement in her tone. "I think I'm comfortable with continuing. We've already ventured this far, haven't we? I'm inclined to explore further, see where this journey takes us." That evening, we found ourselves drawn to each other, engaging in our own intimate moments. It marked our first coupling since the recent swap experience, and there was an undeniable electricity in the air. As we came together, I found myself increasingly aroused by this newfound aspect of Emily's personality. The mental image of her with Robert evoked a complex mixture of emotions, a twinge of jealousy intertwined with an unexpected thrill. I noticed subtle changes in Emily's physicality, the way she moved, the confidence in her touch. Her eyes seemed to gleam with a new self-assurance that intensified my passion. It felt as though our relationship had been reinvigorated, a fresh spark of excitement coursing through our connection. Curiosity getting the better of me, I whispered between kisses, "Emily, how was your experience with Robert yesterday?" I held my breath, both eager and apprehensive about her response. After a moment's hesitation, Emily replied, her voice a mix of shyness and honesty, "Well, it was pleasant, I can't deny that. But," she added, her arms tightening around me, You still hold the top spot in my affections. No contest there. As our lovemaking progressed, Emily's demeanor took on a more serious, almost studious tone. She began to make observations that both surprised and aroused me. "Oh," she would say, her breath catching. "So that's how Sarah enjoyed this particular technique." She peppered our interaction with similar remarks, each one sending a shiver of excitement through me. This exchange of new insights and experiences led to an exceptionally passionate encounter. We explored each other with renewed curiosity, our familiar bodies suddenly terrain to be rediscovered. The night stretched on, filled with whispered confessions, gentle laughter, and waves of pleasure. When we finally lay spent in each other's arms, I felt a deep sense of connection to Emily, stronger perhaps than ever before. Despite the unconventional path we had chosen, or perhaps because of it, our bond seemed to have deepened, enriched by our shared adventure.